For my video essay, I was told to watch the movie American History X, and I feel like this movie was very intense. It was very eye-opening because it described racism, prejudice, discrimination, things that happen today, and it was much, much more prominent back then and in that time in that movie. So I feel like it is an important watch, and it would open a lot of people's eyes to what's going on around them and how people view other people. Considering the fact that Derek was the leader of a neo-Nazi gang, they had multiple instances of groupthink, which is one of the terms. And groupthink is when a group of individuals reaches a consensus without reasoning or evaluation of the consequences. And one prime example would be when the Aryan race gang decided to play the black people off of their courts. They decided that instead of fighting them for it, they decided as a collective that they would play them for it. And during this time, as they were playing the basketball game, the white group was very, very aggressive. White women, white men, they shouted slurs such as the N-word and derogatory terms. It just showed how them as a group, they decided that this is what they wanted to do in order to get them off of the courts. Another big psychology term that did show itself in this movie would be cognitive dissonance, and that's when actions and attitudes of a person do not match. And a big example of this was when Derek came out of jail, and because of the fact that he befriended a black person named Lamont in jail and became, friends with him, his mindset had shifted so quickly while in prison. He came out and he decided that he didn't want to be a part of that life anymore. He wanted to leave the Aryan race king. His old friend Seth, he was still in this mindset that black people are lower than the Aryan race, and he came into the house being disruptive, basically shouting derogatory terms, forcing Danny, which is Derek's little brother, to record videos and say disgusting things about the black race, about different races in general, and how they were above them in a sense. And Derek just watched him. He didn't correct him on this behavior because of the fact that he was against it now. He just watched him. He just told Seth to relax, calm down, like because he was so rowdy, not because of the things that he was saying. When Seth did feel like he wanted to leave the house now, he was saying, "Oh, let's go grab a bite to eat, like I'm hungry." And Derek proudly got up and went with him. And hanging out with Seth would be against his morals because of the fact that he knew that he did not want his brother to be saying these things, to be thinking these things about another race, because of the fact that he himself was done with that lifestyle. So for him to go and hang out with somebody who has this mindset without the intent of changing his mindset in that moment, that showed an example of cognitive dissonance. There were two types of persuasion used throughout this movie. There was the peripheral and the central route. The peripheral route is basically when you use persuasion relying on superficial cues rather than facts. And this was used when Derek was trying to gather a group of kids who were tired of being not bullied per se, but being bothered by black and Mexican kids. They were tired of it, and they decided that they wanted to be a part of this movement and this gang that Derek had to make them feel superior. And Derek basically gathered them around before they went to destroy a black and immigrant employed shop. And he decided that he wanted to give them a speech about how it's time for them to stand up for themselves because they are the superior race and everything of that nature. He decided to use things like that would amp them up to go inside and basically destroy like the whole shop.
Our neighborhood, right in that building behind you. Archie Miller ran that grocery store since we were kids here. Dave worked there, Mike worked there. He went under, and now some fucking Korean owns it who fired these guys, And he's making a killing because he hired 40 fucking border jumpers. I see this shit going on and I don't see anybody doing anything about it. And it fucking pisses me off. So look around you. This isn't our fucking neighborhood, it's a battlefield. We're on a battlefield tonight.
The central rationale is when you use facts to persuade somebody. And an example of this would be when Derek was at the dinner table with his family and his mom and her boyfriend, they were trying to justify the fact that Rodney King was wrongfully beaten by these cops. And Derek, on the other hand, he was against this, and he tried to convince the rest at the table who wasn't on his side that the cops were justified for attacking Rodney King. He brought up Rodney King's criminal history, which is true. Once you look it up, it is true. He did have a history of violence and being arrested and being tried for different things. And during that time of his beating, he was trying to flee from the cops. I guess the cops caught him, and that's when they started to use their excessive force, which was not needed. And Derek thought this is what he deserved, and he tried to convince them otherwise. Altruism, which is the act of helping somebody or others even at a cost to oneself, it was a big theme as well in this movie because Mr. Sweeney, which was Derek's old English teacher, he was a black man, and he is now currently Danny's teacher and principal. And he wanted to help Danny out in a sense because he wanted Danny to stop thinking about these racist motives. He wanted to get him out of the neo-Nazi mindset. He didn't want him to end up like his big brother Derek. This basically showed a big act of altruism because he himself is a black man and he decided to help somebody who he knew did not like him because of the color of his skin. And that showed a lot because it just showed that he cared about him. Individualization is also such a big theme throughout this movie. You lose your identity, your self-awareness, and your self-restraint within a group. And I believe that Danny was such a big example of this because he wanted to follow in his brother's footsteps. He wanted to be in the gang because of the fact that he wanted to make his brother proud. He just lost his identity completely. Like, he's not living for himself, he's living to make his brother proud. Racism, prejudice, stereotypes, and discrimination played a big role in the movie because this is basically what the movie was about. It was basically like the central theme of the movie. Racism being a big one, where we see Danny's room, his wall is covered in Confederate flags, a lot of anti-black, anti-Jew, a lot of anti-immigrant things, and them constantly referring to black people as the N-word, which is a derogatory term. Discrimination was also really like prominent on as well, like little details such as Seth, he decided to sit on the couch and eat jelly beans, and he looked, before he started eating the jelly beans, he looked at the jelly beans and he saw that there was a black jelly bean. He flung it on the floor and he continued eating the white looking jelly beans, and that just displays like his deep hatred for black people.
Come on, let's go.
Stereotypes were also like prominent, and it was basically like a stereotype throughout the movie that black people did violent things just because, and there was no real motive behind it. And that's the reason why the white Aryan race gang wanted them out of their area in general. Like, they believed that they were very, very violent. I feel like the issues that I did mention are still present in today's society, considering the fact of our recent 2024 presidential election. I feel like it just brought out the worst in people. It brought out the racism, the sexism. I'm not so sure about what would be influencing a lot of these people to be racist, to be like prejudiced, to have stereotypes in general. I don't know, like it's just themselves, it's just their subconscious, like what they really think. And I don't know what would be influencing them because there's no real reason to think these things. From 2020 to now, I feel like this is when I've been hearing about racism, prejudice, discrimination the most because of the Black Lives Matter movement. Right now, what we're hearing about is Gaza and Palestine and everything of that nature. I wouldn't really know how to describe myself at this moment in time. I would just describe myself as a Black young lady trying to make a difference in the world. Like, I'm trying to get my degree in nursing, so I'm trying to, be an advocate for Black women in the medical field. So I just want to be that catalyst as to why Black women and Black men feel comfortable to coming into like the hospital and being able to find somebody of their skin color to attend to their needs, to actually listen to them. And there's a lot of stereotypes going around about me because not only just me, but because I'm a Black young lady in America, like there's been stereotypes from since I was young, like because I'm dark skinned, I'm supposed to be loud and ghetto. I'm supposed to be like very out of order, like I'm supposed to be uneducated. I feel like social media is also such a good thing because it not only forces people to look at the facts about certain things that's going on around them, it forces them to be aware of what they say. Social media, it plays a big part of everything right now. Back then, like racism, discrimination, it was way, way more prominent because of the fact that people weren't afraid of having a camera in their face. They weren't afraid of being caught on social media compared to now where everything is recorded, everything that you say, even if you delete it, it's still like somewhere. Overall, throughout this movie, I feel like it showed the different stages of how somebody can change their mindset, can go from one thing to another based off of different scenarios, based off what happens in their life. Like Derek was a huge character in this movie, as it shows him being a neo-Nazi, him murdering a young Black man for trying to steal his car, going to prison and being sexually assaulted and befriending a Black young man as well, and coming out with the mindset of being mature, being a new person. He didn't have to stay in that lifestyle anymore, and he learned about how it may feel to treat others, horribly, considering the fact that he did get sexually assaulted by his own Aryan race gang. I feel as if Danny being killed opened up Derek's eyes because this is the consequences to my actions, basically. And I feel like it does teach a valuable lesson at the end of the day because people around you could get hurt because of the horrible things that you're doing to others. The overall plot of the movie, I feel like it was very eye-opening. It just made me realize how certain people may think in the world now. It's a very scary thought, but that's just the way some people are wired until something traumatic happens to them. In other words, us as a society just have to maneuver around it, find ways to just cancel out the noise. I feel like the movie, it was really good, and it just like made me dig deeper into the movie. Like it just made open my eyes a lot, and